Yeah, I think it's important when we, as agencies, deliver data to clients, we do so in context of what's important to them. The things that they care about are not always media-based metrics or media-based intelligence. It's more around the value that that media-based metrics or intelligence contributes to the things that they care about. So if we're looking at engagement rates as an example, we need to be able to translate that into terms that are important to them. So brand and the benefit of brand on the brand side of engagement and of people, sharing brands and communicating with brands and participating in a brand story. We now have, I think, an unparalleled ability to connect media exposure to the actions that clients and their businesses care about. We're able to, through the adoption of things like mobile, identify specific individuals that have been served communications either on the mobile device and in some cases at home, and resulting action, so visitation to a point of retail. So for instance, if I am a manufacturer of cars, I can see whether or not an individual was served a specific piece of communication, an ad or an experience, and whether or not that ad or experience contributed to them then visiting a dealership. And I think it's the ability to tie media to a higher state and more important actions that I think is really critical to the path we're on and where we should focus. Different agencies use different framing systems for how they refer to the world. Pay, don't earn, above the line, below the line. The way that we look at the world is through the lens of foundational media and design media. So foundational media is really about the buying of space. It's the insertion of an ad into a unit of space, right? On the other side is what we refer to as design media, where we build branded experiences that drive engagement. And you can either build a branded experience around an editorial event that your audience naturally engages with, and you look for that branded experience to either be additive to the thing they've gone there to do or disruptive, co-opt the moment. The other side of design is on created, which is where you identify an emerging consumer behaviour that's not yet serviced by an editorial event. So if you are relying on the antiquated data systems to identify those emerging events, I think you'll work at a loss. I think increasingly we will be relying on live data, real-time data, that we apply algorithms to, that instruct the technologies that are managing the data to send alerts to our teams, alerting us to new consumer behaviours. By doing so, we have the opportunity as media people and as marketeers to identify relevant new behaviours and introduce branded experiences around them that give clients first mover opportunities and an ability to stay ahead. So as a brand, I believe the focus should always be on introducing the brand story to the individuals that you want to connect with. The function of platforms is as a delivery mechanism. Each platform offers different formats and different ways of engaging. I think we evaluate the platforms based on their ability to reach the people whose behaviour we want to shift. We evaluate the time, labour and costs that go into establishing a brand presence and a brand story in a native way on those platforms. And we make determinations on whether or not the scale is there to warrant the spend. So, I have this belief that every single impression that you place into the market is an opportunity to learn. So I view every single impression as part of a test and learn opportunity. And with that mindset, when looking at these new platforms, very much apply a test and learn mentality. You know, in some instances, the base spend is an inhibitor, and you do have to wait for scale to build. In other instances, if you have good intelligence around the velocity of a platform, you may be able to plan ahead of that velocity, build programs around the platforms that have scale in the very near future. So ensuring that the communications that you produce and distribute within those platforms are timed well to take advantage of the velocity. Always start with the goals of the marketing and media initiative. That's, you know, step one is make sure you're clear on what you're intent on doing, the behaviour you're looking to drive as a result of the communications you're delivering, and then evaluate the platform's ability to connect with the people whose behaviour you want to shift against the metrics that you'll, you know, grade performance against. So, you know, there is a tendency to be blinded by shiny, you know, to naturally gravitate towards new. And I think if you have a rigorous sort of assessment of the focus of communications, the function of communications, have a clear view on who you want to reach, a clear view on the behaviour that you want them to exhibit once they see the communications, and then evaluate the platform's capabilities through that lens. You have a different filter through which you then evaluate, you know, relevance to your campaign or not. You know, my view on ad blocking is there are many forces at play that are driving the trend. There's definitely a component that is built around consumers responding to the avalanche of communications that get delivered to them. There is too much advertising. There's also a natural tendency, I think, on the consumer side to want to get to the things that they want to consume quicker. If you look at what consumers say when they talk about why they install ad blockers, it's generally centred around intrusive ads that, you know, cover the entire content that they want to consume, make getting out of the ad experience just nigh on impossible, where the exit button is almost invisible or hard to see. You know, they're responding to what I think are essentially bad behaviours. Look, it's a very real issue. It's one of the side effects that I referenced that I think we need to address as an industry. I think across 2016, we're going to see so many different initiatives get underway, institutionalised by and introduced by brands, by publishers who I think are going to have the largest detrimental impact. You know, if you are a brand that relies heavily on the ad revenue that you garner through laptop or desktop viewing, the prevalence of, you know, in some cases 20% ad blocking is a huge impact on your revenue. So I think across the board there's going to be a multitude of detrimental impacts on our industry. It will force our industry, I think, to think about what we communicate and how we communicate, at what frequency and in what formats. And I think there is good value that will come from that look. I think you will see the rise in experimentation of introducing new ad experiences, potentially built around native, where, you know, increasingly we embed the brand's communications within the environments we utilise, where, you know, there's very much more focus on the brands being valuable as opposed to the brands being salesy. So the first would be a concerted effort around the addressing of the side effects that I referenced: ad fraud, ad blocking, and transparency. I think as an industry we need to come together and work together to solve for them. Tied to transparency, I think there will be a migration into use of programmatic platforms that are more brand friendly. I think we will see a migration of control within programmatic away from the sellers and into the hands of buyers. I think we will see a rise in the importance of the tech-based consultancy services that agencies offer. I think we will see the rise of tech stacks that are custom built for clients, many of which will reside inside clients' environments. The data that's used for media purpose, I think, will change in terms of the type and size of what's used. Often the data that is most valuable is actually not controlled by the marketing team on the client side. There is often another group that has the keys to the data kingdom. So I think we'll start to see an introduction of those individuals into media. I think we will see through that trend a rise of brands taking more control of the technologies, ensuring that there isn't data leakage. So if I'm going to put my data to work, I want to be confident in the knowledge that that data will not be used by my competitive set or for any other reason than to benefit my business or my partner's business.